You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning.
Welcome to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast, with the spotlight on section hikers.
And I'll spread the word, and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come. And we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast, your premier podcast with the spotlight on section hikers, and I am your host, Julie Jester Gayhart. Before we get to today's guest, I mentioned last week a new series of episodes I am working on that will come out the months of May, June, and July. I'm taking an idea that our producer, Mighty Blue, does on his podcast, but with a little bit of a different twist. I'm titling the series Jester's Class of 2022 Section Hikers. I am currently looking for 14 section hikers that will be actively section hiking this year to come on the podcast, answer 5 questions, and share with us how we can follow along with your hikes. You will also have the opportunity to fill out a guest profile that will be attached to your episode that will feature who you are, your social media sites, and a bio. This will be a series of shorter, rapid-fire episodes that will air while I am out section hiking this summer and enjoying some fresh mountain air. I think it will be a great way for all of us to connect to more section hikers and continue building the section hiker community here on the podcast. I would love to introduce a variety of section hikers to the show that are out on various trails. So with all of that being said, if you want to be part of Jester's Class of 2022 section hikers that are introduced here on the podcast, please reach out to me via email at jester@jestersectionhiker.com or send me a direct message over on Instagram at jestersectionhiker. I am really looking forward to introducing 14 section hikers that are out blazing the trails this year. I am excited to have back with me this week a previous guest of the show, Jennifer Browndorf. Jennifer first appeared on the show back in episode number 80, where she shared a few of her strategies for absorbing all the Mountains to Sea Trail had to offer while out on her section hikes. Since that episode, Jennifer has officially completed the Mountains to Sea Trail. Woohoo! So today we are going to catch up with Jennifer, and she is going to share with us her planning and preparation process, some highlights, some challenges, and what's next after completing the MST. If you want to follow Jennifer on social media to see all of her amazing pictures and informative posts, you can find her over on Instagram at Jen Browndorf. That is at JENNBROWNDORF. And I will also put a link in today's show notes that will give you access to her episode along with this one as well. Thanks for coming back for another episode. And if you have donated to the show via the Hiking Radio Network website, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And now on to MST completer, Jennifer Browndorf. All right, you guys, welcome back to the podcast. The 1,175-mile Mountains to Sea Trail finisher, Jennifer Browndorf. Hey, Jennifer, welcome back.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Listen, if I could figure out this cheer button right now, I would cheer. I'd be, yay, bravo. We're both clapping, so that's good. So yeah, you're back on the show. I think the last time you were on was somewhere end of October, beginning of November. And you were going to be completing the Mountains to Sea Trail, but you recently completed. So you're going to tell us all about that. So actually, when was your completion date?
Yeah, so I completed the trail within the year. So I started in January of 2021 and I finished in December of 2021. On December 28th was my final day out at Jockey's Ridge.
Awesome. So listen, you're actually like a section hiker / through hiker.
Yeah, I did.
You're both categories.
It's hard to define, but I did small day hike sections, and then I did longer segment sections. So, I'm a section hiker, a day hiker, but I finished it in 1 year. So I don't know if that's like through hiking too. I don't know.
I don't know. I can't remember. I should know how the Mountains of Sea Trail does this, but typically, a trail organization, if you complete the trail within the calendar year, I'm pretty sure the Mountains of Sea Trail just calls everybody completers. But I mean, you're a through hiker too, so you really have checked all boxes, because I'm thinking about this. So you hiked, you backpacked, you day hiked, you rode your bike, and you paddled all this year, all 100 or 1,175 miles, and you did it. And you where did you finish?
I finished at Jockey's Ridge State Park up on the top of the dune, and that section I did that's segment 18, and it took me 2 trips to do the whole segment, and I did the last 17 miles from Bonner. I think it's the Oregon Inlet Bridge. I can't remember the name of it. The Oregon Inlet Bridge to Jockey's Ridge State Park. And that was about a 17-mile, day hike. But I planned it that way so that at that time, my family could be out at the park, and they were up on the top of the dune to like cheer me on and make it a special few days of celebration. So we were out there, and then we spent a couple extra days and had some fun.
Awesome. And I was looking up when I was researching about Jockey's Ridge again. I couldn't believe it when I was there, and I read it again today. It is the tallest active sand dune.
Yes. Yeah, it's like a living dune. That's right. It's ever moving and shifting, basically kind of towards the south because of the prevailing winds. But it's also, a diverse ecosystem within itself. It's an amazing place. Yeah, really cool.
So let's talk about, I'm going to throw you for a loop, because I want to remind everybody, the Mountains of Sea Trail goes across the state of North Carolina. It officially, starts, I guess the western terminus would be Clingmans Dome, and then the eastern terminus would be at Jockey's Ridge State Park. So you go across the state, you go across the mountains, you hit the Piedmont, and then you hit the Outer Banks. So for you, Jennifer, could you describe your favorite part? And you paddled, a lot of the paddling parts and rode your bike. So when people ask you about this, what do you say? Because it's so diverse of a trail. I don't even know if you could answer that question. We might need another episode for that. So what do you tell people?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I tell. I say this is such a diverse trail that you can experience it in so many different ways, that you've got the opportunity to hike in the mountains, and you've got the opportunity to ride your bike in the Piedmont and the coastal section on, flat roadways. And then you've got these beautiful Blackwater paddles that northeast Cape Fear section. It's a 4.5 mile paddle. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And it's just like a little, in the, in the corner of this little spot in North Carolina. It's a beautiful place. And if you are making plans to do, it actually, I think, comes up in segment 14. It's right at the seam between 14 and 15. But if you are planning to do those segments, definitely do the paddle. It's so worth it. So, every section had opportunity to explore other ways to recreate or other ways to handle the distance or the challenges. And that was to hike it, bike it, and paddle it. It's like a triathlon. So gives you a chance to practice all your skills, explore all the skills of, hiking, biking, and paddling, and the logistics of that. Sometimes I think about it and my mind goes like, boing, because getting the logistics of getting the boat, the kayak to and from the boat launches, and then the gear is different and the setups are different. So you've got that. And the weekend that it was like a 4-day section. I did the paddle. I paddled, I biked, and I hiked. So I did a beach hike. I did a road bike section, and then I did a paddle. So I had to have gear for everything, and then switch it all out, throughout the day, depending on where I was. So it was like, and I was like, how did I even do that? I don't even know.
But you did it. So,
yeah.
And one of the things I think that you really enjoy, I could tell by your post, you're active on social media, on your Instagram account, and also over on the Friends of the Mountains of Sea Trail group page. And I could tell you love the planning, you love the logistics, and we're going to get into that. But I want to ask you a couple different questions first. So what would you say your biggest challenges were with the trail? Was it the planning? Was it the, getting the logistics down? Or what do you think your challenges were?
I would say the biggest challenges, I didn't see the planning as so much of a challenge as like, in a bad sense. It's a challenge because it's like a puzzle that you're trying to solve, so that makes it challenging, but not like an obstacle kind of challenge where I didn't think I could overcome that or something. So yeah, the planning, if I spent a lot of time up front figuring it out, and then, making decisions based on certain things like the weather, or whether I could get a ride, or my work schedule, or my husband's work schedule. Like all these different things came into play. And then I'd start to fiddle around with some dates, and then I'd lock something in. And then from there, I'd look at gear and food, and, all the like secondary things came into play. But the biggest challenge was maybe finishing that puzzle. I mean, once you got one piece in, and then another piece would get connected to that, and so on and so on and so on. And then boom, it was done. And it wasn't, I was ready to go. So, but I love that. I do love the part of doing the research and planning.
The
and
thing
figuring
too,
it out
as you're saying
figuring out
this,
that puzzle.
I'm like, man, you really accepted that, you really dove in and you accepted the fact that this was going to be your hike, and you dug in and you did the research. And I remember even a year ago, Wheezy P and I did some sessions, kind of if you were a new backpacker, planning your section hikes, and you were right there in those sessions with us and learning and engaging. And, that's what you've just explained what I need to tell people when they ask, well, how do you plan for your section hike? You have to take ownership of your own hike. Would you say that?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely took ownership of it and looked at creating the whole experience for me, like actualizing your plan. Like, this is what I want to do, and this is what it's going to take to get there. And now I need to fill in all the gaps. And that's what the planning part is, figuring out all the details. And, overall, it took me 74 days to hike. Like, I was on trail, hiking, biking, paddling, 74 days. And then it was 44 different trips. So to me, a trip is like all my stuff in the car, get to where I'm going to be. And then I started my segment or my section that I was going to do for whatever period of time that was. And so that's 44 different puzzles.
Wow. Okay. So wait a minute. Let's say
every time.
Let me grasp this for a second, because this is a 1,175 mile trail. So it was 74 hiking days and 44 trips.
So yeah, I like a trip, I would be like driving out to the mountains, and like for segment 5, let's say, I drive out there, and then I was on the trail for 8 days. So that was one trip, but there was 44 of those.
Wow.
to complete it. When you start off small, I started off close to home doing smaller day trips. And then those day trips turned into like one day overnights or one night overnights, and then 2 night overnights. And then I kept getting farther and farther east or west. And then logistically, it doesn't pay to go for just one day. I just couldn't drive that far. So the segments got longer, which was more fun because then there's more planning and more puzzle pieces to put together, and and so the trips got the segments or sections got longer for hiking and biking and so on. I could do 90 miles at a time or 105 miles at a time instead of just 10 or 12. So yeah, I think I did read that that's called something, and it's called lashing.
Yeah, long ass section hike.
Long ass section hike.
Or wait a minute. I had a guest on the show, and she called it her long, awesome section hike.
Yeah.
So we're going to call it a long, awesome section hike.
That's what those were to me, were long, awesome section hikes. So when I did segment 5, I did it all together. And then, that's like 90 or so miles. And I did segment 1 and 2 all together, which is another 100 miles. I did, big chunks of the trail in one trip. But there were 44 eventually all together.
That is crazy, because you know what you're making me think? I cannot even imagine over my course of completing the Appalachian Trail how many trips
it would take. Yeah.
I mean, double that. Yeah. So when people ask you, how do you plan your section hikes? This is what I'm going to tell them. Listen, Jennifer, it took her 44 trips in 74 days. And that was just your schedule, what you could do. And you kind of live, I would say, maybe in the middle of the state. So for somebody that lives maybe not in the state, or somebody that lives on the coast or more in the mountains, that's going to be more.
Yeah, it'll be more. But I think the trail too lends itself to creating these little trips, where you can get some longer distance in, whether you're biking or hiking or paddling. You can kind of just focus on, I want to do a bike trip, and you focus on a section that's a good fit for a bike. And then you can extend your miles a bit, and just be on the bike for that trip. So that's what I like. Segments 17 and 16, those are great for the bike. And so that's what I focused on, to make those two together and go out and do it on my wheels. So
what would you say? So we talked about your challenges, but I don't even think those are challenges.
It's hard. I know one challenge that was challenging, I guess physically, was the downhills in the mountains. I am still like nursing a toenail loss from the downhills in the mountains. That's
all right. Just get that thing removed. It's okay.
I'm just like, oh, yeah. So the downhills were challenging. I think sometimes overnights could be challenging. Just because I was by myself a lot, 90% of the time I was solo, and in, more remote places, the nights were a little bit more of a challenge for me mentally, just to like settle in and feel comfortable and like go to sleep, but I think I overcame them a bit by listening to music or reading my book, or just little things that I could kind of get what I would normally do at home, like I read before I go to bed. So I did the same out on the trail. And I guess that helped calm some of those kinds of, challenges. And I think I'm not alone in those kinds of challenges.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, it's still, when I go out on overnights, it's like, for me, it takes 5 days. And I think the reason it takes me 5 days is because I'm just so exhausted by the 5th night. I don't care. Like
I'm out.
I don't care if anything's around my tent. I just don't care anymore. So, yeah.
And the good thing about challenges or difficulties is that they're usually like bookended by these amazing, like awesome experiences. Like, the highs and lows. These lows are bookended by some really great highs. Like, you go to the camp and you have this awesome sunset, and you're like, this is amazing. You have a great meal, and then you go in your tent. You're a little challenged to get through the night, but you wake up and there's this amazing sunrise, and you're like, yeah, I'm good to go again. So the challenges luckily have these bookended amazing experiences.
So tell us more about your highlights. What would you say were your overall highlights of the trip?
Highlights were like, I mean, certain places certainly were beautiful, like the chimneys, Linville Gorge, going through the Smoky Mountains were highlights. The wildlife that I was able to see was definitely a highlight for me. I had never seen a bear. I saw 4, and it was like just so exciting to see them in natural environments. But like away from some of that, I think highlights for me were that I was able to take my first like kayak trip. That was a highlight. I had never done anything like that before, and it was successful. Highlights, getting to see every section, mountain regions with mountain ecosystems. So I'm a nature person, so I really enjoyed looking at, I saw spring flowers and I saw winter migratory birds. And I mean, I saw it throughout the whole calendar year. I saw all the seasonal changes because I started in January and I finished in December. So, I mean, I guess nature-wise, those were my highlights. I mean, at one point, I think I had to like stop for a second and say, wait a minute, you have to make it to camp. Stop looking at all the plants and bugs along the way. You will never get to where you need to sleep tonight. Because I was down to like 1 mile an hour because I was stopping and looking and I was exploring everything. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. you have to keep going and then, take a quick photo and look it up later or something. But I really enjoyed being able to see our state, all the different regions throughout the calendar year and 4 seasons. And I guess that was highlights.
So what's it like to walk? It's 70 plus miles on the beach. What's that like?
It was good. I did that in May, parts of it in May, and then I finished it in December, that last 17. So in May, it was, 80 degrees and blowing like crazy and hot. And then almost like the reverse for the winter. Beach hiking is not easy. Definitely have to take care of your feet. But, lots of sun, so you got to take care of your skin and wear a hat and all that. So you have some similar challenges, just like hiking in the mountains. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I happen to really love the Outer Banks. It's where I honeymooned. I've been going there for years. My kids love it out there. So it was a good place to finish because it meant a lot to my family to be out there and to be with me during that time. So originally I wasn't sure where I should finish, but
I know. I think I think we talked about that last time. I'm not quite sure you had decided on the last episode. So no, Jockey's Ridge sounds like the perfect place.
Yeah, it turned out to be the perfect place. And it was really fun to leave Clingmans Dome heading to the sea. So that's sort of like a typical, I guess, experience for many of the thru hikers and section hikers that have completed the trail is they start in Clingmans Dome and go through the mountain section first. And so I was kind of, channeling that same emotion of coming down into the Smoky Mountains like other completers had done before. So that was nice because I went eastbound and westbound. That's another like area of planning. Like which direction do you go when you pick a section? You have to decide. You get to decide. You get to think about, well, what do I want to see first? And what do I want to end? Where do I want to end? And then the next day, even I changed directions mid segment. I would, on one day was going west and then I got a ride farther that way and I came back east,
Right.
But I got to decide that. And that was really cool. I didn't just have to keep plugging along, going one way. I could say, well, wait a minute. No, I can maneuver this around and I can see something different or challenge myself in a different way by switching my direction. So yeah, section hiking gives you that opportunity.
That's right.
So those would have been some of the edits I might have made on trail because there were times where I had a plan and of course like something changed and I wanted to do something different. So if I could make a quick edit, I did. There was, I know a really great place was Water Rock Knob. And that was an edit that originally I wasn't going to go that far that day. But I talked with the gentleman at Mile High Campground, the camp host, and he said, it's, if you need a ride back from Water Rock Knob, I will come and get you. and bring you back to camp here. Cause I was really just going to camp there and start off the next day. But I felt so good. And I was like, oh, it's only a little bit farther. I can do that. And he's like, I'll come and get you. No worries. I'm coming. And so I got to Water Rock Knob at sunset.
Oh, wow.
And it was beautiful. And I wouldn't have had that because I would have, I just wasn't going to have that. And so he that connection allowed me to make an edit and change my plans. And then
I love how you call it make an edit.
Yeah, I edited it, a little like my own edit. And with his help, he brought me back to Mile High. And then I camped there. And then another camper volunteered to take me back out before sunrise, back to Water Rock Knob, so that I could get the sunrise at Water Rock Knob too, which is an amazing, beautiful experience. And then I started off on the next section.
I'm not sure why I remember this, but I believe Water Rock Knob is milepost like 451 off of the Blue Ridge Parkway. I might be a little off on that. 451 or 454. It's pretty close.
I believe you on that. But and it's the beginning and ending of, I think, segment
1. Yeah.
Segment 1. Yeah. 1 going into 2 or the other way around. Yeah. And so it's nice to be able to allow yourself to make changes as you go. And you're, be flexible enough to make those changes and take advantage of an opportunity like that. Meeting him was fun. Getting the experience was great. And so.
You know what's really cool? This whole time we've been talking, because I have in my notes here, we're going to talk about, planning, and then we're going to talk about your prep. But we've been doing that the whole time.
Yeah.
Because this is unbelievable. Of your 44 trips, that was its own plan. So you had 44 different plans for 44 different trips. So you had 44 different ways of prepping.
Yeah, I did. I had to, because your gear would be different depending on the trip. And then I got into dehydrating my meals. Oh my. So my food also
went
changed.
Hardcore.
I did. It was really fun. I learned, because I try to also work out at the gym to be prepped. That's part of the planning. Keep your physical, self prepared. And so I learned a lot about balancing out, proteins and carbs and fats and things like that. And so I tried to make meals that would have enough protein for me and have enough carbs and have fats and really be like well-rounded. And the way to do that, I thought the best way to do that would be like for me to learn how to dehydrate food. So that's what I did. And so I'd plan certain meals to go, in the mountains. And then I cut back on certain things when I was biking and prepared them differently and portioned them differently depending on where I was going. And I have like a little stockpile in my freezer of various dehydrated things so I can make a meal like quickly. So that was the other thing. Like, I'm going to need a lot of meals, so I'm going to make a lot of dehydrated ingredients. And then when I need to go, I can just put them all, assemble them together and go. So that was part of the planning too. Like if I'm home, plan the food, prepare the food, have it ready, get the gear ready, have it ready. And I have like a gear shelf too. I think that's kind of a organize
you
your gear.
Really nerded out on this.
I don't, like, so like, okay, I'm going to stand in front of my gear wall and I'm going to pick that, and that I need. And then on the next row, there's, I need a life vest, for this trip, but I didn't need it for the last trip.
Listen, everybody listening's going, yes, I do that too. Yeah, that is so cool.
Yeah, the gear wall, the food storage wall, or like prepping for that, and having those, of course, books and things like that. I have all the guides and, digital guides or book guides. And, you're constantly like checking in with, trail angels and saying, are you free? Can you take me here? Can you take me there? And then you kind of plan around their schedule. And yeah.
Well, I'm kind of concerned about you, Jennifer.
And I have a spreadsheet too.
I was going to say, I'm kind of concerned because what now? I mean, you put your heart and soul into this. And again, bravo.
I did. Thank you.
You really got into it. And even with the food prep, that is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I say
Yeah.
I'm concerned, but like, what are you doing now?
Yeah. So what next? You know, I have always been part of the Friends of Mountains to Sea trail group, but I've taken it up a notch. Right pretty much as soon as I got back, or as soon as I completed, and I joined specifically the Falls Lake Trail Maintenance team, so that I can now I'm the caretaker of the Possum Track campground or campsite, which is along the segment 10. So I go every month and I'll be responsible for maintaining that space and making it ready and available, and report any kind of things that need to be taken care of. And then I'm also going to be a trailhead / parking lot litter cleanup person and coordinator for the trail in segment 10 only. That's a lot of cleanup.
Awesome.
But anyway, yeah. So, giving back has always been one of your messages, but it's always been something that's been part of my like work ethic and my upbringing as well. So yeah, I'm definitely happy to do that, and I'm enjoying it so far. And then as far as hiking goals, I think I've got a date picked already for doing the Art Loeb Trail in April. So kind of playing on what I learned from this trip and applying it to a shorter trail, but tough trail. It's got some good
tough.
uphills.
It's tough, but man, oh man, you're going to love those balds.
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So my nature side is just going to be like,
Listen, you need to plan for several days because you're going to be,
yeah.
I mean, it is just so much to absorb and see. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that trip, and I'm going with a friend that isn't from this area. So I'm hoping to share some really beautiful spaces with her.
And take the trip and go to Cold Mountain. Do the extra mile.
Do the extra
Yes.
mile. Okay, that's what I've heard.
Yes. Oh my, I mean, okay, I'm just going to stop there. You have to play it. Okay, put that in your plan.
I'm writing it down.
100%, because when you get up there
yeah.
and you turn around and you look out, that's all I'm going to say. It is one of the best views I have ever seen, East Coast, West Coast. And I hope and pray you get a very clear day, because
you're going
to know
that's
exactly. We're going to have a conversation after you do that.
Yeah. So that's a trip coming up. I'm definitely still working on the parks and seeing all the state parks. I'm at like 32 I've seen out of the 41 state parks. I've got with my husband, we are doing the C&O and the Gap bike trail. So that's a 330-mile rails to trail route we're going to go from Pittsburgh to DC and kind of bike pack that trail.
Now, wait a minute. I think
fun.
that is part of the Potomac the National Scenic Trail, the Potomac Heritage Trail.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and then it'll be another like, I guess it'll be like segments and sections.
Yeah,
but
you're gonna be back on again. You know this, right?
I'm gonna be planning.
Yeah, you're gonna be back on again.
Yeah, and this is a chance for my husband and I to combine our sports, because I like the backpacking and he likes the cycling, and now we can spend time exploring that option for travel. So and adventure. I've got like a kayak trip planned. Not sure exactly what date, but out to Hammocks Beach, and then was at Bear Island and the Cape Lookout area. So some camping and some kayaking, all leading towards other bigger things, I guess. I don't know.
Awesome.
I think that's probably enough for now. I still have a job.
Well, listen, you're so used to planning. I mean, you've been planning all of 2021. So, the thing is, you executed, you completed it. You're an MST completer, bravo, awesome. We know what your next moves are. So sometime, I don't know, early summer, maybe in the fall, you're going to come back. You're going to chat with us again. We're going to see what you're doing. I think you're going to be a regular on the podcast, because I want to know what you're doing. I want to know what you're planning. And who knows? Yeah. You went to the food, and who knows what's next?
Yeah, I feel like, food is definitely an area that I want to keep exploring. Now I'm focusing on some vegetarian meals. So kind of Yeah, there's always something to learn and some way to grow while you're going through these, adventures. I don't know. And bike packing, I've never bike packed. When I did my road sections, I carried a backpack. I didn't carry my gear on my bike, which was challenging because of crosswinds and things like that. So I'm interested in how it's going to be different when I've got some pannier bags on the back, and I've got a handlebar bag, and where am I going to keep my hydration, and what's the food going to look like? I don't really know all those details yet, but I'm interested on how that's going to work out.
Awesome. So listen, again, I cannot praise you enough. Congratulations for completing the trail. You made a plan, you executed. What do you want to leave the listeners with? What do you want to tease us with so next time you're on?
Well, I was thinking about it, and I really came back to a quote that I've heard in multiple settings, but it goes kind of something like this, that the best teacher in life is our own experience or our own experiences, and none of us know who we are until we fail. And they say that every man or woman is defined by his or her reactions to any given situation. And so when I think about my experiences on the trail and what I've learned and how I've grown, and yes, I've definitely failed here and there, I've really been able to learn from all of those experiences, the highs and lows, the challenges, the highlights. Everything teaches us something. And I guess I would encourage all the listeners to go out and, plan the section, plan that little trip, and then just keep using your experiences as your teacher. And
there you go. Lifelong learner.
Lifelong learner. Yes, definitely.
All right, Jennifer, thank you for coming back. And
thanks
we'll
for
chat
having
with
me
you here in a couple months.
Yes, I look forward to it. Thanks
All right,
for having me.
happy trails.
Thank you. Bye.
Such a pleasure having Jennifer back on the podcast. Once again, bravo and congratulations for completing the MST. Jennifer just proves once you put your mind to something you want to achieve, you could have so much fun along the way while you're out there making it happen. If you want to follow along with Jennifer and her future hiking endeavors, you can find her over on Instagram at Jen Browndorf. As always, you could go to hikingradionetwork.com and click on the Jester Section Hiker Show to find all of today's show notes, pictures, and links mentioned in this episode. If you find value in what we do here at the network and want to give back to help in the production of our shows, you could always leave a donation by clicking on any one of the donate buttons found on our website. And please be sure to leave us a note why you enjoy our shows. Thanks for listening, be safe out there, and happy section hiking.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning light. I wonder if you'd wander with me, and I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. You're wondering if I go wandering with you, what kind of trouble we'll get ourselves into. Would it be wrong to tag along with a band of vagabonds? You wonder if I'd wander with you. So I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. I'm wondering if you'd come wandering my way. If you ever get lost, or if the trail leads you astray, the music of the pack can always bring you back. I wonder, can we wander away? And I'll spread the word, and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets in these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods.
Celebrate Thanksgiving with Safeway. This week at Safeway, get whole Signature Farms frozen turkey, 10 to 15.5 pounds for $8 each, or 16.1 to 22 pounds for $10 each. Member price with a minimum $50 purchase, limit one per household. Plus, packs of Coca-Cola, Pepsi, 7-Up, Dr. Pepper, or AHA Sparkling Water are buy two, get three free. Limit 3 free items. Also this week, get 5-pound bags of Signature Farms russet potatoes for 97 cents each with digital coupon. Limit one. Visit Safeway.com or head in store for more details.